people. I hope that you will understand the need to deploy this type of new devices in what we do as a police. There are a number of things that I would like to share with you today. I do give lecture for different occasions. I'll make sure that I bring to you only the gist of it. Some of you who are in the audience and who are joining us remotely, who are watching this conference and the session, I hope that through this presentation, I hope that you will better understand the drone-related ecosystem in Korea. As you see in this slide, I am working as a drone architect in the Korean National Police University. Currently, I'm a police officer. I'm not sure whether you can watch the slides right now. Please kindly understand even if there is some technical problem. I'm not sure whether the slides are being turned. Next slide, please. Can somebody please turn the slides? Can we have the slides, please? I'm not sure whether the online participants have access to the slides. Sorry for the inconvenience. So until we have the slides. In 2016, I was about to sing a song until we have the slides. But now you can see the slides, right? In 2016, Korean police started to use drones for finding people, the missing people. In 2018, 2019, there were a number of occasions and events that we showcased our application, and I gave a number of lectures. Last year, we went to Shenzhen, China, and made a presentation on Korean drones used by the police force. What I'd like to share with you today is that on your left, these are some of the drones that we've developed in 2016 and 17. On the right bottom side, 17 district police offices are using these type of drones to find and search missing people. In the middle, we have the drones that we were able to find in China. The one with the red color is a drone that is used to extinguish fire. That is deployed by adding or mounting a different device. I'm not here to promote the Chinese technology, but if you look at the Chinese prototypes, and if you look at the current application of the Chinese drones, and of course, I'll show you some of the drones that we are deploying in Korea. Maybe there are some things that we can learn from the Chinese developers. On the bottom right, I'm writing a small device. I'd like to also explain to you what that is. That will help the drone developers to add features. I'm not sure whether you can also have the sound of the video. I'm not sure whether the online participants have the sound of the video. If you are from the military, probably you know what this is. This is LAH. This is a lightweight armed drones. We are now seeing the transition from manned vehicles to unmanned vehicles in the military. The police is using small drones with the revolving wings, but there is a type of mission restrictions and it has limited deployment time or flight time. Now we are thinking about introducing this revolving wing type drones. So we will have to consider what kind of areas we can utilize rotary wings. I can open this information to the general public. The special force already has adopted 45 units of this. It's a very small reconnaissance drones. Usually 2 units compose of one set. In the military, 3 units consist of one set. The 2 unit set is about 150 million Korean won. Major national agencies have adopted this type of new technology. As was mentioned earlier, these are drones that are used to extinguish wildfire. Maybe we can adopt this type of technology. So for the same device, we can mount different modules. Last week, I gave a lecture to the Korean military. There's a fire extinguisher ball that's attached that goes beneath the rotor. There are 16 fireballs. And what if those fireballs are replaced with bombs? We have to understand that these devices can be modified to turn itself into a weapon. This is those 15 fire extinguishing balls. You may wonder why I'm talking about these fire mission drones as a police officer. But you can always change the mission of the drone, and depending on these modules that we attach to the device main body of the drone, it can perform different tasks. We can add camera sensors. If we need rescue efforts, if we need to deliver some supplies, if we need to make some sounds to locate something, then we can develop such drones with such mission capabilities. Maybe 2 weeks ago, of course, we are using drones to find people, missing people, and typically small-sized drones are used. One police officer used racing drones like this. Using racing drones, we can reach the target quickly and have the visuals of the target field. And if we provide high-resolution cameras, we were able to, or the police was able to find an old gentleman within 48 hours of missing. The earlier days, when we argued for the adoption of drones for police, we wanted to purchase the existing market available devices like the rotary wing type that can fly for 30 minutes. But now we have more advanced drones, where lightweight aerial vehicles. We also have drones for reconnaissance missions like Black Hornet. There are also lighter weight air vehicles. There are also racing type or racing drones that can be deployed to the site quickly. And these different types of drones can be used in searching missing people. It will really help us with our mission. But the real situation can be different. Let's say we've identified the location of the missing person. We have to also carry the person to the safe spot. Is it the responsibility of the police or is it the responsibility of the fire department? Of course, it depends. But our objective is to find people and save lives. And these aerial vehicles, it is called PAV, Personal Aerial Vehicles. The global market has delivery market and mobility market. It is transitioning from the mobility market to delivery market. Whether the drones are used for finding people or whether drones are used by the public sector, I think the transition is a current trend, so we have to make sure that the relevant technologies are developed. For delivery type drones, I understand the Ministry of Land and Transport is planning to arrange the UTM, and PAV will be developed with support. So not as a mobility tool, but drones will be used as a delivery tool. And we'll see more drones flying in urban areas. If you're moving from Gimpo Airport to Gangnam area, if you're moving from Incheon Airport to Songdo, if you're also moving from Incheon Airport to a hotel in Gangnam, PAVs will be utilized. Now it's called the UAV, Urban Air Mobility. So we will see a transition to UAV. When we deploy drones to find missing people, it should be also deployed in urban areas because there could be some missing people in urban setting. I'm sure that the relevant market will continue to grow, and we will see this transition in the drone industry. It is not applicable to drones, but there is a UTM, parking, battery change, also needs space. That's called the UAV Hub project by the Ministry of Land and Transport. And the relevant processes will be really challenging. Instead of talking about other things, it will be really important to let you understand the overall trend and the transition. I'd like to explain to you now the drone ecosystem. If you have questions about other topics, I hope that there will be other opportunities to address those topics. A lot of people are researching drones, and there are a lot of businesses that are related to drones. You have to have an understanding on these pictures before you engage yourself with drone business. The left side picture is the drone manufacturers and their product pictures. And on your right, you have the Korean drone industry ecosystem map. This is a Korean ecosystem map of drones. And on the bottom right, that's from drone.e.com, Drone Industry Insight. It's a global consulting company website, and they have compiled global drone-related businesses, selected ones, and list the selected ones. There are 945 of them that's listed here. You can take a look at the slides later, and you can also access this information from the website of the consulting firm. Of course, we are using drones for finding missing people. There are other public agencies that use drones for different purposes. Unfortunately, I cannot zoom in on the slides to show you some of the names, but unfortunately, it is not possible. Please kindly understand. Please make sure that you read my materials after the conference. And the red boxes are the ones that I want to highlight. There is a Korean ecosystem map and overseas ecosystem map. Agriculture, construction, firefighting, land survey are some of the areas where drones are used, but the red boxed ones are the delivery market, drone delivery market, where drones are used to deliver goods. And there is also UAL, urban aerial mobility, and there is an anti-drone or UAV counter or counter UAS. At the same time, global companies like Amazon, Google, and Alibaba, DHL, they're also looking at the drone delivery market. Of course, drones are used to find missing people, but I think we have to look beyond. We also have to look at the UAM market and the delivery market. We have to understand the technologies that are being developed for those markets, and those new technological developments should be reflected in the drone application or drone deployment by Korean police force. If you look at this slide, there are 7,000 trucks, 40 aerial vehicles used by Amazon. UPS has 500 vehicles, aerial vehicles. You see that these global companies are actively engaged in the delivery market because going forward, please move back one slide. Can we go back, please? Thank you. DHL has 420 aircrafts. Why delivery market is getting all the attention? All the delivery or logistics companies has not only trucks but also aircrafts. They operate many different branches around the world, so they need drones and UAM. That's why these companies are paying attention and making investments to the relevant systems. Now back to Korean police. How we're using drones to finding missing people. Last year, 38 drones were adopted by the Korean police. Last week, National Assembly audit was finished, and many pointed out that there are many institutions and agencies that have purchased drones but they're not using it. And there are some accidents, and some don't know how to operate the drones that they have purchased. Fortunately, Korean police are actively leveraging the drone technology in searching people, missing people. And one thing that I would like to share with you today is that when public agencies purchase drones, procurement is not important. It is very important to have the SOP, standard operating procedures. Of course, to purchase the drones, Korean police made a lot of preparation, performance of the drone, and we need to have the legal ground to allow us to deploy drones. We also need people who can operate drones. Through job description, those technicians were hired, and we have 34 specialists who are hired by the police based on a special act. These specialists are deployed in different branches of the Korean police, and they also analyze the operation of drone systems by the Korean police. So we have these systems to operate drones, but for other public agencies, they don't have necessary preparations to hire specialists or to purchase and effectively and efficiently deploy and use drones. Among many other things, what I would like to highlight is that concentrating my talk on the drones that are used for finding missing people, I'm not sure how many of you are from the business. In 2018, what I've been telling the audience is that when drones are used for finding missing people, there were some who I proposed some pilot tests. This is a map of Jeju Island. There is a hiking trail that's about 450 kilometers. And sometimes heinous crimes do occur on this hiking trail. To prevent crimes, some say that we have to have more CCTVs, we have to deploy police officers, we have to increase our patrols. Those suggestions have been made to prevent crimes in this hiking trail. But my proposal was, what if we use drones? Drones, of course, were used to find missing people in Hanlan Mountain. If we simulated how many units of drones will be used. We came up with 19. The flight time is about 2 hours. It uses hydrogen battery cell. We agreed on a regulatory sandbox with the relevant authority of Jeju. And there was a recent news article on the successful demonstration of this technology. It takes only 2 hours for 19 drones to cover and patrol the entire area. On your left, we have lampposts that automatically charge the drones. So we have these lampposts installed to charge drones automatically. This is a technology that's patented by Amazon. If it's widely deployed by public agencies, this automating charging lampposts can be a solution. Of course, there's a mobile chargers, there's a mobile charging stations that can be used, but we can utilize the lampposts to charge drones automatically. Because these charging stations are available, drones do not have to come back to their base to charge. So we completed the demonstration project in Jeju. Going forward, as a police force, to improve our mission capability utilizing drone technology, please turn the slides. There are 3 steps. Most people think about drones for searching missing people, but what we need is sensors or softwares. Fortunately, we have a good news today. As you can see here, the police drones have not only cameras attached, but also we have AI-powered analytics capabilities that can analyze the drone images. So we receive the videos simultaneously from the drone. Unfortunately, we do not have real-time analytic capability. We have post-processing software. So once we receive the video from the drone, if it's fed to the software, AI analyzes how many people there are, where they are, what objects there are, and they can also locate these objects. There is a company that developed the software, and about a couple of weeks ago, this software received the grand prize in the relevant hackathon. As you can see on your right side, there are sensors. There is sensor I, sensor nose, and sensor ears. We have no robot legs, but we have the 5 sensory capabilities that's given to these drones using sensors. And if these sensor technologies are combined with the drones, it will be really effective in our mission. Recently, a lot of people are paying attention to the fleet operation of drones or the platooning of drones. There are about 3 to 4 companies that have developed technologies that allow platooning or fleet operation of 100 to 400 drones at the same time. The control center for this type of fleet operation will be really important. For police, we do not deploy only one drones. We'll be able to deploy multiple units of drones, and we should have technology to control the platooning or the fleet operation of the drones. 5G technology is widely available in South Korea, and the control center, if it's up and running, will be really important for not just in Korea but around the world. The video footage and observational reconnaissance of the drones should be further improved by the establishment of central control system. I hope that there will be other opportunities. I understand the next speaker will further explain to you those type of central control system. Since I'm running out of my time, it's time to wrap up. I would like to skip some slides. I'm using Mac, but there's some issue with the interoperability, I guess. So this is the one last message that I would like to share with you. As was explained, of course, we want to deploy multiple drones and we want to improve the sensors and software that goes with it. And these are the things that we want to pursue. Of course, we operate drones, and government agencies carry out R&D projects. And that's a different form of drones. Data, 5G network, and AI will be the new features of the future drones. The drones will be able to analyze big data utilizing 5G network. Instead of post-processing, we should be able to analyze the footage real time. And this DNA drone system will be developed. So let me control the slides. So far, until now, a lot of things had happened for us to leverage drones. There were a lot of efforts that we had to make to have everyone understand the necessity of drones in police. And we also persuaded relevant stakeholders to develop the drones that we needed. Now we have new directions for drone development. And here we are. And we are looking at DNA plus drones that will be developed and deployed. If you look at some of the pictures, when we adopted drones, we considered or we assess the type of drones that we would like to have in police. The drone makers in Korea. There are many because there were not a lot of demands. The public agencies or government agencies were the main purchasers of drone technology. And in this event, all the drone technologies were showcased. And we were able to learn a lot from these events. Last year and 2 years ago, we went to China to understand the technological level of drone technology of Korea and wanted to compare that with the Chinese technology. If we are given future opportunities, I hope they will be able to have more detailed discussions of the relevant drone technologies. We have representatives from police, research institutes, and academia. And probably the online audience has a lot of questions. I look forward to other opportunities to engage with detailed, in-depth discussions about drones. Can you please show the last slide? Yes, this one. I guess my time is up. Thank you very much for joining us and listening to my presentation. Unfortunately, precious lives are being taken by COVID-19. I hope that the drones that are used by Korean police to search missing people will help find people and save lives. I hope that the technology will be widely applied to save lives across the globe. I hope that there will be further improvement in drone missions. I also look forward to drone technology standardization based on the Korean drone technology. I hope that people around the world can have an understanding that Korean drones can and do save lives. Once again, thank you very much for your participation. I also hope that you stay well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your passionate presentation, Mr. Lee. Please give a warm round of applause once again. Let me move on to the next presentation about the police field video transmission system, and it will be given by Director Lee Dong-gyu of Live Security Education Center and Korea Police Human Resource Development Institute. Please welcome with a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm the director of the Live Security Education Center at Korea Police Human Resource Development Institute. It is my great pleasure to be part of it. My institution and the National Police Agency is working on the development of EOP, so-called Eyes of Police system, and I'm gonna going to introduce about this system. Please flip the slide. Next slide. Next slide. So let me show you one video clip before I move on to the next topic. This is the accident happened in India because of the leakage of the LPG gas tank. Chemical product leaked, but police was not able to approach to it because of the possible explosion. And you need to listen closely to what these witnesses are saying. So, two police officers saw the fighting between the two gangsters. And next slide, please. So, actually, police officers always meet or encounter this kind of disasters of many different types: forest fires, toxic gas explosion, leakage, criminal escape, and terror. But to tell the truth, police officers and other disaster responding institute are heavily relying on acoustic information or sound information. For example, the voice of the reporter and the police officer who are dispatched to the site usually make a call, and we need to depend on that call to analyze the situation. So the common issues is like this. It is very difficult to secure the safety of police officers on the ground because when they are dispatched, those people need to understand the situation in advance before the dispatch. But like I said, they need to rely on the interview or the calls from the witnesses indirectly. So they have a very shallow understanding of the situation and very difficult to understand what kind of safety equipment they need to prepare before the dispatch. Can you go back to one slide? And also, some people report about the situation to the police agency, but it is very difficult for them to clearly tell what kind of accident happened. And on top of that, because of these kind of problem, it is very difficult for relevant institute to do the comprehensive response. So in order to overcome such difficulties, many people developed auxiliary devices and equipment. For example, this visible 112 reporting system duplicate the screen of the reporter to the screen of the police station, or we use vibro system to understand the actual situation of the rally, demonstration, or accident site. And video walkie-talkie is also being used for police officers so that they can share the video among the people on the ground. But this system requires specific device equipment, costs a lot, and has an issue of compatibility. So my institution, beginning from this year, embarked on the research on the development of on-site video transmission system. This is a structure and the principle of the system. It is quite simple. Drone, action camera, and the cell phone of a victim or police officer, CCTVs. These all devices equipped with LCD screen are used, and those screens are collected into one single platform so that everyone can see the entire screens of those devices. For example, the action cam camera can be duplicated on the screen of other devices, not to mention drones and phones. So at the situation control room, they can see all these screens, and on top of that, police officers on the ground or commanders can also see this screen, and the situation center can send even hyperlink for them so that they can get access to it. This is an actual demonstration we did in the past by using the thermal image of the drone and action cam smartphone and drone images and the smartphone of police officers. All those screens were shared at the situation control room. So whether you are inside a room or outside a room, they were able to see the screen real time. So this platform has these pros and cons. First, in terms of cost, actually the platform does not rely on the data transmitted by the devices. They just transmit and share the screen simply, so it is very not costly to build a basic infrastructure and platform for this system. About 10,000 US dollar was enough. And it is flexible because you can connect to any devices with an LCD screen. So it has a possibility of expansion high potential. And also everyone who has a device, everyone we give the authority to access to this system can use this system without any additional device or equipment. So far I haven't explained about the first part of my presentation, the platform of Eyes of the Police. And for this part 2, I'm going to talk about the application. First, the underwater application using the underwater drone and ground type drones, water type, underground type. We have multiple types of the drones which shared their images with other devices. So the usage can vary. For example, if you want to use the images of the underwater drone, the principle and how it works is identical. It is easy to use and convenient. Also, as we move on to the phase 3 development, up until phase 2, we worked mainly on the integration of the image sources so that we can share them in a very sufficient and efficient way. But one demerit of this system was the limitation of the camera angle because we were not able to see beyond it. But if we use this 360-degree camera along with the 5G technology, we'll be able to see the whole surrounding images of the scene. So it is visually much better than the existing platform. So the resolution and angles and data spot of the images are also analyzed to overcome any limitation of the existing platform. Also, VR camera will be later utilized so that we can produce real lifelike images on the screen. Also, we are trying to create a new bandwidth so that we can resolve the problem of limited bandwidth. This is one picture, one example of the field test. Actually, at this conference, many people presented ground-type drones and air aviation-type drones. But if you attach the camera onto the drone, you can operate quite a similar platform. This is an example of the demonstration of underwater drone. So without going into the water by person, you can see what's under there beneath the water surface. It was Do you think that it was effective? Next page. So we did a test in a clean water with the underwater drone. So if the water quality is good and if you can visually can see the surrounding, I think it is relatively easier for you to utilize the system to do the investigation or find a missing person, unless the turbidity is not that bad. Next slide. But if you remember the first sky view, this is actual images taken by the drone. Can you go forward? You need to wait to see the video clip. You might not see what this is, but this is actually the video clip I took. You can see that some part of the images are moving. So if you go to some pond or a dam area, the turbidity is too bad, so you cannot really see anything. You see something from time to time, but within a 10 centimeter radius, you can see partially, otherwise you cannot see at all. So I realized that it's very difficult to use it for the real mission purpose. But we are doing research on the underwater police investigation as well, because usually they go into there with the diving equipment and the visibility is not that different. So human eyes and drone cameras are not that different if the turbidity is this bad. Next slide. So this is a control screen of a drone, but for underwater drone, it is very difficult to control the drone. It is very little likely to experience some fall, but since you don't see anything around it, orientation or direction cannot be controlled well, so we need a further investigation to improve it. So we tested the sonar and basic underwater systems. And since we have a sonar system, we did another round of the test with underwater drones. And we did a test for two scenarios with one specific objective and with a one with no obvious object. And I think the former would produce better outcome later. And this is another example of ground-based drone. There are many types, and it was manufactured by DJL. And it is almost like a toy, but it also has a camera embedded in it, and it supports real-time image transmission function. So I thought that was enough to use it for just test purpose. Next slide. So during the night time, the infrared camera turned on to do the demonstration. And we assumed that if there is a place without any light sources, we wanted to understand how far we can see with this drone. Next slide. This is an actual image transmitted by the drone real time. As such, these drones, of course, this drone is kind of rudimentary level, but you can also use the four-legged drones to go inside a tunnel or accident site and share the screen to anyone who needs such images by using the on-site image transmission system. So I thought that it was worthwhile to do this kind of research. Next slide. Final slide. So we did the demonstration and realized that Instead of developing a novel system, it is very important for us to develop a new system that can incorporate the existing solutions into one single package system. So whether it is an underwater drone or grounded drone or aviation drone, of course, there are many things that should be improved further, but I believe that these are the things to be developed and things are being developed, and if we go a little bit further, we can produce something very meaningful for the people working on the ground. Future direction. We will develop a system for a major disaster areas or the investigation for missing people or the missions in hazardous areas. So it will help us to strengthen the overall commanding and security capability of police officers. Thank you so much for your kind listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Lee Dong-gyu. Once again, please give him a big round of applause. Let us move on to the next presentation. The topic of next presentation is four-legged walking robot for rescue efforts. The presenter is Mr. Lee Yun-hang from Aiden Robotics. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Good afternoon. I'm Lee Yun-hang, CEO of Aiden Robotics. Today, I'll talk about four-legged walking robots or quadrupeds. In the event of disaster or for dangerous areas, it is safer to deploy robots rather than human beings. Of course, drones is one of the solutions, but we also have four-legged walking robots that can also be deployed for disaster rescue efforts. So here I'm going to explain to you some of the technologies that we developed at Aiden Robotics. While we are waiting for the slides to come up, I got a PhD from a robotics research laboratory from Sungkyunkwan University. And this year, I opened up the startup company. We develop robot sensor technologies. We also develop algorithms to allow the four-leg walking robots to operate. Next slide, please. For disaster areas, a lot of people go missing. For example, the major earthquake that hit Japan several years ago, and there are many missing people in Korea as well. In 2015, there were 2,800 missing people. So every year, we continue to see the increase in the number of missing people in Korea. If people go missing, a lot of times we use human resources to find the missing person. A lot of people are deployed, mobilized and deployed to search the missing person. On average, we get reports of 6 missing people, and to find one missing person, we usually have 100 police officers or firefighters to be deployed on site. And maybe these human resources can be replaced with robotics. Then it will help reduce the time that's required to find the missing people. As was mentioned by other speakers, drones can be utilized. And another option is the four-legged walking robots or quadrupeds. There could be many different types of solutions. Drone has the wider coverage, so it can search a wider area with wider coverage. But if it's a wide mountain area, it cannot really go into the woods. So it does have some limitations. And some sort of sensors should be mounted, and high performance sensor can be heavy to be mounted on the drone. Caterpillar type or wheel type have really good load capacity, and it can also fast deploy to the site, but the pavement should be there. But the lateral movement is limited. It only goes straight back and forth, and it also has limitations in operation in bumpy terrain. For legged type robots, it can be operated on a bumpy terrain. And like a horse, it can also carry some weight on its back. However, depending on the road situation, its energy efficiency is lower on a flat surface. So different solutions have pros and cons. So we can use different solutions to complement each other. Today, I'll focus on legged type robots. There may be different applications for quadruped, and DARPA Robotics Challenge is being organized by DARPA. DARPA is a US high-end research agency, and they develop technologies for the natural interests of the US. So far, biped robots have been developed, but now they're concentrating on quadrupeds to manipulate or operate in challenging environment. As you see in this video, these bipeds must overcome the obstacles in front of it. It also has two arms. It can also be used in removing obstacles or using different tools. For these walking robots, there are unipod, biped, quadruped, and hexapod. The different type systems have been developed. With increasing number of legs, it's more stable. But because it has more legs, it means that they have more joints, and it makes the device heavier. For bipeds, of course, humans walk on two legs, and we use muscles to walk. Then it is less stable, it can fall down. But for a quadruped, it is really stable, so it is more stable to be operated. That's why we are focusing on developing quadrupeds. So we propose for mountainous terrains or for challenging environment, quadrupeds can be easily deployed. So we have developed this technology. Different technologies are required. First, we need to have a strong robotics platform. Second, to walk around the bumpy terrain, we have to have a good algorithms that allow agile locomotion ability on uneven terrain. We should also have a remote control and monitoring capability. At the same time, simultaneous localization and mapping, or SLAM, is required. We began our activities from Seongyongwan University Research Tab, and our company was established last year. So we've been working on these robots from the research lab. The earlier ones look like a spider, and we developed different forms of robots. We researched different forms of legs and tested different ideas and solutions. We also tested different weight loads that go onto the robots. There's another video I'd like to share with you. Can you please click once more to play the video? Next slide, please. This is an agent 6. This is currently being showcased at this exhibition. If you visit our booth, you can take a look at the prototype. While I was doing my PhD, we participated in the Gyeonggi Province's Smart City project. So it's got 4 legs, and you don't have to link the robot to the elevator. You can use one of its legs to open the door of the elevator. You can add the grippers to make it pick things up. And it can also communicate with autonomous vehicles. It's 18 version 6. It stands for Artificial Digigrade for Natural Environment. It's an artificial object with 4 legs that can move around the natural environment. It's about 47 kilograms, and its voltage is about 48. It's got the walking speed of human beings, 3 to 4 kilometers per hour, and it can be operated for 1 to 2 hours once it's charged. And it can be operated for about 1 to 2 hours if it's working on a flat terrain. In the body, there are different devices. There is a motion PC, and there is a motor controllers to manipulate the joints, and there are sensors to control the posture, and it uses the lithium-ion battery. Next slide. For walking robots, what's most important is to understand the ground resistance. If you are blind and if you do not have any senses, it will be really difficult to walk. We have to feel the ground. That's why the sensors are really important in walking robots. We have our own technology for sensors. Utilizing our sensor technology, we developed the 86. That's why we have this soft joints that is installed on this robot. It can carry up to 25 kilograms as a load. Next slide, please. So it is as strong as this. It can carry a carriage that carries 2 people. So if you have time, please do visit our booth. You can take a look at our product. It can also pull this small vehicle, which is about 1 ton in weight. So walking is of course important. The robots usually carry other devices on top of it, like the measurement devices. So it needs some strength, and we believe that our prototype has some advantage. We also have a strong platform. And if you look at the next slide, please. We can control multiple number of units. So it will be really useful for rescue efforts and search efforts. We can deploy multiple units and operate them at the same time. So we did some research on this multiple unit operation. I would like to share with you another video before this slide. Next slide, please. Maybe the video will work. I'll explain without the video. The robots can be remotely controlled. The Ministry of Defense organized a drone bot challenge and we won the best prize. And the mission was for this dangerous environment where enemy forces are hiding. Before deploying human competence, robots can be deployed. So these robots are deployed and human beings are standing 100 meters away from the site, and these robots are used to understand what's inside the situation. And the robots mapped the underground area and sent information back to the military on the location of enemy forces. This is the image from the robot. So as the robots enter the enemy site, the robot understands the enemy combatants. On the ground, the robot can identify the enemy forces. It records the images utilizing its camera that's attached to it. Inside the robot, we have what's called the around mapping or ambient mapping technology. It understands whether there are stairs in front of it, whether there are any bumpy roads ahead of it, and the robot selects the most optimal routes to operate, and it maps its ambient circumstances and operate and works on it. These are some of our ongoing projects. The local environment mapping is done first. When the map is generated, when the robot is launched, we can understand where the robot is located. That allows the remote controlling of the robots. So since we have the mapping information, if something goes different from the mapping, then we can analyze what's going on. We continue our development on the platform area, and we are also collaborating with other robot manufacturers. Before I finish up my presentation, of course, for rescue efforts and search missions, we can deploy different solutions. Quadruped is one of the solutions or options that can be utilized. It can save lives, or it can be mobilized before human beings. Then it will be helpful to save lives and save human resources. With that, I'll finish my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Mr. Lee, the CEO of Aiding Robotics. Next is about the drone development plans for public areas, and it will be made by Senior Superintendent of Lee In-geul of Ulsan Regional Police Agency. Please welcome with a big round of applause. Good afternoon. I'm working for Ulsan Regional Police Office, and I'm Senior Superintendent. The three previous speakers already talked much about the topic I'm going to cover, so I'm gonna focus on how to develop human resources for this field. In particular, the police-related human resource. Do you know who this gentleman is? I think you know who it is. This is my face. So I'm wearing a mask, so you cannot really know that we are the same person, but I'm controlling a drone in this picture. Next page. Last year, 2 years ago in 2018, when I worked for the Central Police Academy, there are so many students who passed the policeman exam and who wanna fly the drone, I said, and about 100 people gathered to control the drone and test the drone. And since then, I realized that we need to have a plan to develop human resources in the drone field as well. Next picture. Superintendent Lee also mentioned about this, but at the regional police level or at individual level, efforts have been made to use the drone for missing person investigation and the accidents in investigation, like this. Next page. In the middle, you can see the image of Mr. Lee and the Central Police Academy picture. And they have this club called Police Drone Club. We are not supported by anyone, but it is the group made by the hands of police officers, and we are doing a lot of research to make the best use of it in our daily works. So it was partially introduced, but we had the two test drones, Fine Drone and PDSD drone. And last year, we purchased these from the Army for a test operation, and from June, we implemented this device for our investigation for the purpose of police search. But the problem is that this is FC model, which is not that much stable, so it is very difficult for police officers to do the good control of it. Korea's technology is not that much advanced, so we are seeing some hurdles and limitations, but they should be improved in the near future. Next page. This is Mr. Lee, director of the Human Resource Development Center, and we invited him to this conference as well. But anyway, like this picture, police officers are getting this kind of training to use the drone for their works. But like I said, we have a limitation of the training resources as well. So we cannot teach unlimited number of police officers. It was Chungbuk Provincial Office which officially launched a police drone search team. The gentleman in uniform in the first picture is the chief superintendent of the local police officer, and he took very strong initiative to forge this team within his institution, and we are supported by the relevant institution of the region, and thereby the police drone search team was established. So Mr. Che in this picture is explaining how this drone is going to be used to the chief superintendent. So we worked day and night to make it possible to make this kind of basic framework, and other regional agencies are trying to benchmark our success case. And that's not the exception for my Ulsan agency. We learned from Chungbuk Police Agency to implement the same program. Next page. It was a picture taken at Hansei University, and the lecture was given to military and police officers so that they can get some certificate relating to drone at low cost. When I was in the Central Police Academy, these vast ground were used for the mass training so that they can obtain drone licenses. When other students were outside for vacation or on leave, they spent many times on here to get the license relating to drone. And teachers also went there to produce more talented workforces in the field of drone. I myself is taken in the picture there, and as well as other teachers. Like previous speaker, Mr. Lee said, Japan, China, and other countries or benchmarked as well so that we can learn how they are using drones for the police officers' work or firefighting works. So we collected such cases of other countries as well. Director Lee and Superintendent Lee previously talked that drone alone is not enough to do the missing person investigation. We used to think that the operation of drone is not is enough for us to find a missing person. When you go there, you can see all the family members of the missing person, and they are even trying to control the drone by themselves because they are so desperate. But in many cases, drones are not enough to find a missing person. In case of Chungcheong, where the infrastructure is well established, the possibility of finding the missing person is only 10%, and in most of the cases, they are already dead. The victims are already dead. So it means that if you don't have infrastructure, the possibility of finding a missing person is almost zero. And my center is the same. We were not able to find any missing person by solely relying on these drones. So like previous speaker, Mr. Lee said, you need to use the artificial intelligence software to tell the difference between human images and non-human images. On top of that, the computing power of the drone must be hugely improved. Still, it is not enough. From 18, Mr. Lee said that drone alone is not enough to cover the entire missions. For example, in Korea, we have many dogs that discover the bombs, and we have dogs that helps us to find missing persons. When the Lee administration was inaugurated, one grandma was missing when she was trying to find some mushroom good for health in a mountain. And dogs are usually used for missing person mission when that victim is expected to alive. But drones can be used for the living body and dead body as well. So it took many times to do the investigation but failed to find a missing grandma. And that made Mr. Lee the chief to do some more training for the missing person investigation. And then by using his team, we were able to spot the location of a missing person who were lying on a rock near the lake with a stomach faced down to the ground. And it was an overgrown area, so it was very difficult for the team to discover a human being inside such ooze. The hundreds of police officers went there to do the investigation because usually people walk along the promenade or the road taken by other people. But it was a winter time, so the place was overgrown and it is very difficult to locate the person even if she or he is right next to you. A few years ago, the wife of my colleague was missing in the mountain. We were able to find her last trace by looking into the CCTV, and she was entering the mountain a few hours before the missing. And it took months to do the investigation, but ended up failed to find her. I'm not sure whether she was eventually found or not, but I went there and it was so overgrown and you cannot really see any people lying on the ground, whether she or he is right next to you or not. So if that's the truth, a drone, of course, is not enough to do the good investigation. If you are a veteran police officer, so you cannot do this kind of investigation by just using drones, which means that we need additional systems to make it effective. Of course, drone itself, the performance of the drone must be improved, and also software that can analyze the images must be implemented so that you can tell the difference between the non-human image and human image. And also, if he or she is dead, there are so many different types of dead body: burnt dead body, decomposed dead bodies. So since there are so many variations, you need to use the AI power and software to automatically do such kind of sorting process. Secondly, drone flies, of course. So when it goes into the overgrown area, they cannot see through the ooze. In our police officer, we have one gentleman who knows how to use the sports purpose drone, which can fly through and permeate into the ooze. So that kind of drone should be used along with a four-legged drone. And on top of the drone, you need, like I said, the AI-based software. Also, you need to install the vision sensor and electronic nose to it so that the device can detect the smell of a human being and transmit that information to the situation control room. Until we have sufficient technology, all we need to rely on is dogs, actually. But still, that is not enough. On the right side, the man wearing the red glove is the herb hunters. Herb hunters always go into the places where people usually don't go into because they know the routes very well of a mountain. So when such person is missing, the families are trying to find a missing person, and it becomes like a bounty hunting game. And in that case, those herb hunters take the mission and find a missing person. The picture on the right side is the image of a wood cutter. If it is too overgrown, sometimes fire can grow so much, so we hire them to cut down ooze, and we have special forces and those are people working for a police squad. They are much younger than usually you on average, but they don't usually get married or have a child because they know how dangerous it is. And because of that, it's very difficult to recruit additional police squad to fill the vacancies. So we have less workforce who can do such work. But think about this. If your mother or father suffers from dementia, she or he could be missing easily, and right before the missing, they would be very desperate to find their way out. And in the case, we need a good police squad who can help those people to come back to their home. And on top of that, we need a good network because there are hover hunters and woodcutters who know the routes of the mountain very well. So we need to know how to work with them and allocate an appropriate leader among them so that anyone suffering from dementia can be found readily and as early as possible with the help of such networks. This was manufactured by the Boston Robotics, the one you saw before. Next page, next page, next page. So in order to have such an infrastructure, I have a proposal. Next slide. Each police agency need to have at least one drone teacher, because if you work for the nation as a public servant, you don't make a lot of money, so you cannot really get a private education. So instead, maybe we can hire a drone teacher like the lady in the picture, so that they can learn at lower cost. So they don't get any subsidy from the government, and no one even buy them a lunch. This is all out of their pocket. So such drone schools must be established, since we have gentlemen and people from all relevant institutions. We need to build this kind of small drone schools within your institution so that we can produce more professionals. Next page. Next page. So when we hire police officers, or when they do the promotion evaluation, maybe you can give additional point or bonus points for the recruitment or promotion to motivate them. The next presenter also had a talk with the former chief superintendent of an agency, so they reviewed the possibility of introducing this new incentive system. So maybe if they have a drone certificate, they will be able to get additional point for their equipment. Also, for their they can get advantage for their promotion as well if they have a drone related certificate, whether it was issued by the private or public institution. Next page. I don't think that there will be any questions for my presentation, but so this kind of self-improving infrastructure must be established along with the institutional system. What matters the most is the education system, cheap, effective school system, and additional bonus point for recruitment as well. And we are public officers, which means we are quite conservative. Any accident will lose faith from National Assemblymen, and this will bring about criticism from the public. So we are always conservative. But in order to improve something, we need to break the ceiling of this conservatism so that we can be more progressive and make progresses. So maybe we can create some kind of test bed to do the small scale prototype research. For example, Dr. Gu wrote a column at newspaper which says that when if you are a farmer and if the yield is very good, there are two major beneficiaries: the wild animals and the burglaries, because they know that the yield is very good, so they go there and steal something, and wild animals go there and eat out all the producers. Likewise, if the system is well established, usually the beneficiary is quite small, and only 3 or 4 people are hired for the specific position, so they are not enough to cover the whole system. So at the local side, it is very difficult for them to do this kind of missions with 2 or 3 people, so we need to hire more people and motivate them. This concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Yi. Once again, please give him a big round of applause. Before we move on to the next presentation, we will take a short break. Let us take a 10-minute break, and the next presentation will begin in 10 minutes. Next, the presentation will be delivered by Mr. Kwon Hee-chun, professor of Caroline University, who is also serving as the Secretary General of the National Association of Cognitive Science Industries. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Hello, everyone. This is this year's the first big event. Up until last year, we organized at least 4 events per year at different locations, but due to COVID-19, this is our first event this year, which is happening at Kintex right now. The ROBOTWORLD event was delayed 2 times, and at the last stage, it was cancelled totally, and we couldn't organize the drone show. But RoboWorld kindly contacted us, and we were able to organize this session on safety and rescue efforts. So those of you who are participating online, unfortunately I cannot see you in person, but still good to have you for this conference. A lot of overseas participants requested the presentation materials, and there is a translation that's being provided right now. About 5 years ago, when a person goes missing, 90% of the times it is either kidnapped, it is a kidnapping or a crime. There were not a lot of attention being paid to this kidnapping or people going missing, and most of the times those victims are found dead later. But now we have higher performance networks, and we have different technologies, and nowadays drones are being deployed for finding missing persons. Today I'm going to talk about drones that are being used to find missing persons. I am teaching future police officers at the National Police University in Korea for about 10 years now. And because I want to be a contributor of the protection of people's lives and properties, I've been writing paper on AI and other technologies. I'm also teaching at the Caroline University in the US. I understand in the audience there is a parent of my students. I understand my students are listening to this lecture on YouTube. If you need to contact me later, you can do so. I'll be able to produce or provide some information as you require. Last year in spring, one lady who was just walking on the street was kidnapped by this person. She was attacked and she was killed. Of course, this is in China, it is not in Korea. If something happens in China because of the vast territory of China, it was really difficult to find the criminal, but it took only 2 days to find this criminal. AI was trained with criminal's face, and it only took 2 days to find this person. It's thanks to the deep learning of the AI technology. The same case was last year in Brazil. A 17-year-old was doing some errands for his parents. He was kidnapped. It was recorded on a CCTV. The face of the criminal and the plate number were recorded, but she's still missing, and the police officers couldn't identify the criminal. So Brazil is a huge, vast country, and there are a lot of people going missing. Once I was having a conversation with an Indian minister. In Korea, we get reports about 35,000 people going missing, and the Indian minister also said that he wants to adopt related technology because every year about 1 million people go missing in India. Countries like these with low security, they have a lot of accidents like people go missing because of kidnapping. In the US, every year they get missing people reports about 400,000 people, and most of them are juveniles. There are a lot of children and young people going missing, and 90% of the times those kidnapping or those missing cases are related to criminal cases. Once a police officer visited us, and there are about 28,000 reports, and big data analysis is being used after COVID-19. Criminal cases in Korea will be later analyzed, and the outcomes will be published, I guess. This is the worst combination. This is combination of Wu and Han. So we have corona and the virus. So it's the worst combination, which is a joke about COVID-19. Up until February, Spider was fit, but once he was self-quarantined, he got some weight. He couldn't go outside. He often ordered food and he gained weight. Another joke from COVID-19. In 2017 in the US, so many people go missing. Next slide, please. We trained the AI with the missing person's facial images, and there's a project that's called Michigan Project. There was one missing child, 7-year-old boy, Lion. All the villagers were mobilized to find this boy. He came back home, but the villagers, the families, and the relatives all worked to find this boy. But this is what happens when a person goes missing. In the US, there is no police force that can be mobilized en masse to find a missing person. So all the police officers should be launched on site to find this person. Sometimes search dogs are used, and sometimes other technologies like drones and robots are deployed to search for this missing person. This is what's happening and the challenges that are faced by police stations. This was a small village with a smaller population, but the area that they had to cover was really vast. Drones are now part of our everyday life. Recently, there was a drone incident, and the military force really recently hired a specialist who has expertise on drone operation. And drones will be widely applied and deployed by the military force and the police in many countries. You can get a lot of information from my book and from online sites. And of course, the drones are from bees. When we talk about drone, we use the acronym DRONE. D means dynamic, D means robotics, O means objective, it's mission capable, and it's N, networked, and E, sometimes E changes. If it's fun, it's entertaining. If you're studying drones hard, then E stands for energetic, and sometimes it stands for inevitable. So all these different E's are applicable to what drone means. You have to be dynamic, you have to play with drones, so it's sometimes entertaining, it's networked, and it also performs some objectives. There are different functions on your mobile phones. As mobile phones are advanced, there are sensors and cameras that continue to improve, and these features are added to drones, and the prices get lower. It used to be very expensive, the sensors. There were different types of sensors that were applied to drones, and the software integration was also a different challenge. But with mobile phones that are widely available, now sensors are manufactured at a lower cost. Now, we have drones that have different sensors. It's lighter, it's more flexible, it's more durable, and a lot of softwares are being installed. That's why we have wider application of drones. The drones 3 years ago were really different from the drones that we use nowadays. There are different drones that are showcased through the event without any GPS sensors. Indoors, this drone understands instructions and it stands still. One of the challenges of the aerodynamics is that having a drone still in a room, because it is easier to have a drone flying around. A drone sitting still requires a really difficult high-end technology. We need different technologies that should be combined to realize that function. Going forward, drones will be able to perform different tasks. Already, we have UAV, cinematography, like we have DJI. Next slide, please. We have sensors. We have thermal imaging. We have rescue drones that can save lives. This drone is throwing a lifeboat or the life tube to the person. This is another example of the drone application. Drones can also deliver medicine. This year, we had many days of heavy rains. In August, we had a rainy season, and that led to massive mountain slides, and some campers couldn't escape their site because of heavy rain. So, this summer, drones were deployed to deliver medicine and food. In the Uiham Dam incident, for about 3 weeks, all the police officers nationwide used helicopters and drones to rescue, but because of the heavy rains, of course, I was on site. I was in the rain, tried to find the person, but it was really difficult. The situation or the environment was really difficult. We found almost all person except one because the area that we had to cover was really wide. This is what the future will look like. High-rise apartments will have not basement parking lots, but the ports for drones. We know from the movie Oblivion or The Fifth Element, those movies were 20 to 30 years old. But as the current president said, we'll be able to test and introduce drone taxis. That's how fast the technologies are being developed. It's just around the corner. When these type of stories were presented, it looks like it's far from the future, but it is really happening right now. We will be able to use these things in the next couple of years. So we have delivery system using drones. One of the projects that we have is that the Jisan Mountain area, one helicopter was deployed to find people, but there was a helicopter accident. Next year, we will develop and deploy 150 kilogram or 200 kilogram weight capable drones. So helicopters will not be deployed, but drones will be deployed, and it will pick up the person from the mountain area and will deliver the patient to the nearest hospital. Maybe next year we'll be able to develop a prototype. Hopefully we'll do a demonstration project. This looks like a helicopter, but the body is not made of metal. This is made of carbon. So it is lightweight, the engine will be smaller and it will be more efficient. So we will continue to develop delivery drones. Next slide, please. There are areas where helicopters cannot access, then smaller drones can be deployed to rescue people. Probably, if you have retired, or if you wonder what kind of jobs your children will be having in the future, with new devices and technologies developed, there will be totally new jobs. or professions that will be created with drones being deployed in the Air Force. I did not expect the Air Force or the Korean military will be hiring specialists, drone specialists.
In Israel, air meal equipment was used to rescue two injured soldiers, and it flies at lower altitude for this kind of rescue operation. It is manually operated, but in the future, it will be automatically evacuate any injured soldiers once commanded all the way to the hospital. This unmanned drones will be developed in the future, and this is the example of a highway. One person is bleeding and it is being rescued by a drone all the way to the hospital as well by a drone. Also, ambulance drone delivered a AED to a person injured on a street. Next, the delivery drone. In few years later, air ambulance and drone taxis will be seen on the street. So cars and drones will be used at the same time, from manned vehicle to unmanned vehicle, from small vehicles to larger vehicles. So this is a new type of transportation mode we will see in the future. This is a picture of the fifth element. The background is Newark of 2050, so it is just a few years ahead. So you set the altitude before the driving, and you set the orientation and altitude, and you do such kind of setting before the drive. Of course, larger human carryable drones should be developed, and that's good, but we need to also pay attention to smaller drones, and these drones can be very dangerous when it is equipped with bombs or if it flies in group. I will later show you the video clip because we don't have much time, so we need to pay attention to smaller group of drones so that we can do multiple missions with it. I'm not sure why this picture is here. So due to the COVID pandemic, people go around there and drone detect the temperature of a human body of the people walking on the street, and if they see abnormal temperature changes, they detect it and send an alert that this person should be hospitalized. Because of the COVID-19 outside of Korea, I received so many requests from multiple institutions to share the knowledge about the thermal detective drones, or other types of the drones for medical purpose. For example, if you want to eat pizza, you can get this kind of delivery by a drone, not by a person, and pay to a drone as well. Police officers, like I said, we have 140,000 policemen in Korea, but in the future, police officers will be required to get a drone certificate and get education accordingly to make the best use of the drones, so that they can have at least basic knowledge about a drone. For example, you know how to drive a car, but you don't know the technologies embedded in it. Likewise, you need to know how to control or navigate a drone unless you don't know the specific technologies applied to it. And the number of the professional drone policemen should be over 100,000 in the future. This image was taken in the UK. 16 years old girl at night was kidnapped on a street, and it was reported to police, but if the policeman turned on the siren, the girl could have been killed. So the police officers detected the location of the perpetrator with the thermal image drones and caught the policeman like this in the night, as this video clip shows. So we needed this kind of drone during the daytime, but also at nighttime as well, where the crime happens a lot. I had a chance to eat dinner with a monk, and 300,000 monks worked for him because he was a head monk. So he decided to implement this drone technology to his temple, so that during the nighttime, the drone patrols around the temple to see any suspicious people. So I was very surprised by his attempt. So in the future, policemen would make the better use of drones in many different applications. For example, the missing person inspections and suicide attempt prevention, or even against terrorist attacks. Counter-strike drones. We have many things to learn. Patrolling drone, protection, safeguarding drones. So many types of drones will be developed, implemented in the future. Also, recently, the illegal drones are running around and flying around, and you shouldn't do that because this can possibly violate the privacy. Because if you take a picture of some person with a drone, you can be caught. And actually, there was one person who were punished because of the illegal drone activity. So these are possible crimes that could be committed because of the use of the drone. Mr. Lee and I did many pilot projects to save lives, and this patrolling prototype drone will be further developed, equipping more devices so that it can be used for the search investigation or the initial crackdown of a crime. So by using the drone, you can do the patrolling and ensure the security of a place. In order to do so, you also need a ground force, people who can control those devices. In the future, the number of drones will increase much. You might think that not many people will be additionally hired, but I believe that we need soon 10,000 police proposed drone in the future, and accordingly, you need to have many types of drone for each proposed. For example, missing person investigation, policing. So depending on the proposed, you need to develop multiple types of drones befitting each proposed. So if one person is missing in your family, you need to tell the police to find a missing person. But from the perspective of a policeman, there are so many people missing. So within a short period of time, you need to use this kind of technology so that you can find a person within a golden time in a very efficient manner. Otherwise, if you miss the golden time, you should use last resources for that specific person because it is not affected. In order to make that kind of decision, you need to prove that you can justify your decision by using this kind of drone technology. So you did your best but was not able to find him or her. You can tell like this to your family. I thought that I was a man running around, and it turns out that I'm a Batman. This is kind of joke. So this is 2-hour long lecture, but when you provide the pictures of your father and mother to a deep learning system, the machine learns the face of the mother and father. And on the way of a policeman going to the scene, the list of the possible suspects or a missing person's face are analyzed so that the police officers can reduce the workforce much. This is an example of the Michigan program. And here's an acronym. Skip the slide. I have so many slides, so I need to skip much slide. So AI or deep learning based image learning is being developed, and this general adversarial network is one example of such network. At Michigan, GAN is being developed at the very end of this tale. To tell it very simply, the fake money investigators can tell the difference between the real money and fake money because he learns it continuously by seeing so many and